When I was thinking about the questions that I wanted to ask the panelists today, I really had to think about the questions that a lot of my clients bring into my office. So many of my clients come in and they are full of self-doubt. They're asking questions like, oh, what's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? What do I have to do differently to fit in here? Do I have the right skill set? And one of the first things that I always want to do with the really talented professionals that I've had the privilege of working with is reframe that narrative that we often fall into as immigrant professionals, where we start thinking about our migration journey and as our status as foreigners in terms of deficit and disadvantage only. It's really important for us to focus on all of the amazing things that come out of that journey. We learn a lot of skill sets that are becoming increasingly essential in today's world. Things are changing all the time with AI, with the very disruptive geopolitical situations that we're all experiencing right now. And as migrant professionals, we start training that adaptation muscle from day one when we land in our new home country. Like, we are experts at adapting to changing circumstances, new environments, new languages, new people. And this is something that can be a real advantage for your careers, for your professional development and personal development. And so in today's panel discussion, that's what I'd really like to focus on with the panelists today. I'm really lucky to be joined by three brilliant Vienna-based professionals who have used that adaptation muscle to build very successful international careers. So please help me in welcoming them to the stage. First, we have Simona Domazetoska Schuster. She is a lead product marketing manager at Frequentis and also a co-founder of the think tank Mindful AI. Simona, why don't you come on up here? Our next panelist is Muhamed Hadzic. He goes by Mo. He's a strategic marketing manager at Frequentis. Please join us on the stage.
Like in the middle, like to introduce less between women. Should I sit here?
Yeah, that's great. And then finally, we have Georgia Panteli. She's a lecturer of film and comparative literature at the University of Vienna and also the University College of London. Please join us on stage. Okay. So maybe let's see if all of your mics are on first, because apparently I wasn't holding mine properly. Good. So I had the pleasure of getting to know all of you a little bit before today's panel. But maybe for the audience here, could you maybe share quickly what brought you to Vienna and maybe what some other stops were on your journey here? What other countries have you lived in? We can start with you, Simona.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for having me here today. A little bit about me. I was born in North Macedonia, and when I was 7 years old, we moved to New Zealand with my family. And then when I turned 10, we moved to Australia, so I have a bit of an Aussie accent. And I think I was always fascinated with Europe, and I wanted to go back to my roots. So once I started studying at university, I decided to embark on a student exchange program, and I loved it so much that I kind of by mistake came to Austria, and I decided to pursue a master's program and actually live here. And fast forward, I'm now married to an Austrian guy, which I never thought I would kind of do. And we have a little baby boy, and we're also expecting a second one. And
congratulations!
Yeah,
round of applause for that.
Ladies first.
Okay, mic's open. So thank you very much for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you to Allian, who used to be my student, an excellent one. And so what brought me to Vienna? This is the second time around. So I moved in 2019 after 11 years in London. So what brought me here is, to be honest, actually the privilege of choice, because my partner is Austrian. So we've been together for quite a long time. We lived in London, then we had our son, and things, even though we both had quite good full-time jobs, we had to face the choice of either moving in the outskirts of London because of how the whole family system works there, like meaning that the kindergarten is extremely expensive, and so when we had to move to a larger apartment. So the question was, shall we move to Zone 6 or shall we move to Vienna, where we have some support from his wider family. We didn't know at the time how much, but it was like this assumption. It took a while to decide, because I had lived in Vienna from 2005 to 2008. So that being said, Vienna did change in those years from 2008 to 2019 when we moved back here. So I was a student back then. I met my partner in Denmark. It's another part of we were Erasmus students. Those of you who are not familiar, that's an exchange program that's, brought a lot of people together, had European children. Very successful program. So, 2005 to 2008, Vienna was a little more, how shall I put it, not that friendly to me back then, also because...
A lot of change since then.
Well, I was also a student, different age, different experiences. So I had already an idea of where I'm moving back to, and I wasn't thrilled. But I also knew that there's a lot of infrastructure for children, health, education, things that when you are 22 you don't really care about. And I also saw this as too conservative, like family focus. But then I was in that family kind of, phase of my life, and so those kind of things weighed over to move here. I didn't regret it. I mean, we didn't.
So it's a kind of opportunity that you moved here for as well, the social services and the great quality of living. Even if it maybe wasn't your first choice, there was something you were moving towards as well.
Yeah, I have to say that the second move, like in 2019, it wasn't the unknown. But that being said, it also was the unknown, because I had an image of Vienna in a specific point in time, but it changed and I changed, so it was a different experience. So in a sense, my being too cautious helped in things actually being better. Not immediately, we can talk about it later. But
we will talk about that later, don't worry.
But that's really what brought me, different phase of my life. And the privilege of choice, I have to say that not everyone has that. So.
Thank you. And Mo, how is it for you?
How long should I go in between? Super long or super short?
We can keep it a little shorter so we can move on.
My name is Mo.
Hi, Mo.
My name is Muhamed. I come from Bosnia. Edmund from Bosnia, or ex-Yugoslavia. We're all many. Okay, you know everything that I will talk about. I was born in one small city a long time ago. I'm pretty old. I'm almost 48. In Sazi, and then I moved to Hadzic, which is not so spectacular, neighboring city, like 20 kilometers from that one. And we will talk about that maybe, this transition. So just my trajectory was then Sarajevo. I studied there. I finished my university. I got my master's degree. I worked for some of the biggest, companies in the world in general, in different places, but all Bosnia and Vienna. So I started in Raiffeisen Bank. And actually, I started in one big Turkish bank. Then I worked in McCann Erickson, now McCann agency. I moved to Raiffeisen. Then I moved to Unica Insurance. And then I was marketing manager there. I was invited in Vienna then to come here. So when you are invited somewhere, obviously, the rules of the game are very different. So, right, you get to play your game of being hard to get, or to the extent that obviously you are allowed to by the at that time employer. But like maybe important thing from my side to emphasize, my path and the place where I come from is culturally very similar to Vienna. So moving from Sarajevo to Vienna is like what's to get used to. I get better paid and everything works.
And that's, that can be a good reason to move somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, Vienna tried. I think, if you don't know, I think Vienna tried trams in Sarajevo.
Yeah, that was something I did not know.
So like
I
Sarajevo
learned
had the
from
first
Mo,
tram,
so.
but speaking about, being the, the good old empire renewing itself in the new context. So that was that. And second thing was also that, cultural is totally not different, and I was invited. So for all of you who came in Vienna because they really like this city and who came from different continent, I think that you have much more interesting things to share than I do. And I really applaud you, because my way was like, okay, let's move somewhere where you know everything, basically. Just everything will work, as I said. And there are some adaptations that I had to do, but they are really not worth talking, I guess. Everybody from Mexico.
Well, I hope they're worth talking about a little bit, because we're going to talk about some of them today.
Your questions are very exciting, but I don't want to play a game of I came to fulfill my dream. And I got offered a very good job. It's a job opportunity. Vienna is nice. I mean, my best definition of Vienna is very easy to get used to, hard to fall in love with. That's the best that I came up in these 15 years that I'm in Vienna. You cannot fall in love with architecture, really. But it's beautiful. Vienna is fucking beautiful, but it's a bit cold.
Yeah.
And now, also, I don't want to talk about these differences between, we are Balkan people, we are very warm in Vienna. I will not fall into that trap, but I think you know what I mean. And obviously I'm here, so I like the city.
So I think regardless of how we all end up here, even if we get a great job, if we maybe move here because we have a partner who is from here, or if we came here as a student and just fell in love with the place, there's always this restart phase that we have to go through. And that restart phase can often push us to think very creatively, let's say, about our career path, sometimes because we want to, but also many times because we have to. And that's something I'd like to talk about a little with each of you. And Simona, I'd like to start with you, actually, because you've made some very dramatic career pivots, let's say, over the past few years. So you come from a social sciences background. You worked in human rights at the UN for a while. And then you made the transition into tech, so working at a venture capital startup, and then eventually working at the tech company Tricentis. How did you find the courage to take those leaps, and what was it like navigating those totally different fields?
Yeah. Okay, it's not an easy question to answer, and you guys gave me 2 to 3 minutes, and I kind of stuck to that time frame, unlike you two. I'm kidding. It's a combination of multiple factors, I would say. Number one, it's got a lot to do with self-discovery and a search for meaning and purpose in life, which we've spoken about. Number two, it's driven by necessity. Mm-hmm. And number three, it's also partly to do with my personality, I would say. I'm quite an interdisciplinarian. I'm certainly not a generalist. Mm-hmm. And I'm a systems thinker. So it would sound very odd to you if I said that all those different fields for me interconnect somehow, and I combine those worldviews somehow. But going back to your question, just to give you some context with the self-discovery. When I was young, I loved to sing, I loved to perform. So I'm actually an entertainer at heart, and perhaps we can sing later because I heard you have a guitar. Or
yeah, we might have an impromptu talent show later, we'll see.
Yeah, and I, throughout my teenager life, I was actually professionally dancing and singing and on stage, and I loved it. And I think that each and every single one of us has a unique talent and a skill set, something that we just effortlessly do that for other people we may notice it's quite more difficult and challenging to do. And for me, that was entertaining people. But what ended up happening is that early on in my 20s, I had to make a very tough decision. Do I pursue an entertainment kind of career, which we all know is very difficult? It's, the chances of success are 1 in a million or a billion, or who knows, right? And also having grown up with Balkan parents and kind of parents that very much emphasized education, study hard, work hard. I had this academic self, right? So I was very conflicted, like, what do I do? And I just ultimately decided I will keep my need, like my love and my joy for entertainment as a side hobby, and I will pursue the safe route in life. And so to your question, I think this has always accompanied my life. Like, how can I bring my talents and things that I love doing in a different context? And so for me, that has been humanitarian studies. It has been working at the UN, being a spokesperson now for Frequentis, my company. And I've kind of uniquely managed to combine those things that I'm good at, but sadly not fully fulfill what I was really good at when I was young, and that my kind of inner child self. And so to your question about how I did this, well, you have to be convincing, right? And every single interview, very similar to Miglena, when I want to achieve something, I really set my mind to it. Many times you fail. But if you're able to convincingly tell the story of, I hate to say it's transferable skill sets, you can actually explain that. And because I kind of studied social science, I was able to translate that skill set into quite a technical field. And for me, it has worked quite well. But still, you know, I'm still kind of an entertainer on the side. I kind of sing on the side as well, and I try to keep that part of me alive.
And I really like that as an example of how, you know, our priorities may change over time, but there's still a way to like integrate our passions maybe in different paths that we have to take.
Absolutely.
Georgia, I'd like to...
3 minutes.
Well, I'm just getting back at you, you know.
I think we have plenty of time to discuss with all of you.
How many minutes? I think that's Allison.
We noticed.
Georgia, I'm going to go to you, and I may have to keep you on time, but I do want to reiterate we have plenty of time to get through the questions here. So we talked about changing priorities. Your career has also evolved quite a bit through your different life stages after the birth of your son, and also in each new location that you've worked in. How have you let your career change with your life path rather than fighting against it?
Okay, I'll try to be brief. Right. Okay, where do I start? Let's say that I always wanted to teach. That was my dream. At the university, I liked this space. So I tried to follow that trajectory, this target, this aim, if you want, this desire, this dream. We can put any label to it. And then life happens along the way as you get there. And there's so many things that change you. And that's not in a defeatist way. It's like we are not really trained when we're 20 to understand this process, but it happens nonetheless. And then you might find yourself valuing completely different things. And of course I say from a place, okay, I reached my goal, That being said, with extremely precarious contracts, that's another discussion. So it's not really what I thought it would be. But then, you know, the whole idea of having a family and having a child, that as a very avid feminist was for me cringeworthy beforehand. So I was like, that's what I always wanted to do. Nonetheless, when I decided I wanted to do it, this changed me. I know this sounds all cliche, but still from a feminist perspective, we should be able to accept these changes, and, you know, this is valuing time with my child. Sets the priorities completely differently. So then you sort of see, okay, my aim is not to be in that particular position anymore, because that's the context, that's the social structure, and I have only one lifetime. I can't change the system right now. Right now, I want to spend time with my son, the years that he's still young. And so I do accept those precarious contracts, and I do a part-time job on the side. So that, again, is adjusting and adapting, as you said. So in my case, it wasn't like, you know, a sad thing, but a very conscious thing. I don't want to move every 2 years in a different continent or country, which is the formula at the moment for a successful academic in humanities. Successful meaning with a permanent contract. So basically, I am very happy with what I have now, like as a new aim for now. And I also have learned that in 5 years' time, I might have a completely different mindset formed by life, experiences, social context. And I'm open now, having learned that I have changed a few times along the way, that it's normal, it's fine, and it's also exciting to see who I'm going to be in 10 years' time. So, yeah.
Thank you. I think that's really amazing, and it's something I try to encourage my clients to think about as well. Your priorities are going to change. Your definition of success might change over time, and that's okay. You should be open to allowing your career to develop and allowing yourself to develop as well. Mo, one thing that really stood out to me when we were talking before this discussion is you said that once you leave your hometown and you restart your career in a new city, your career suddenly becomes a lot more about merit rather than who you know, at least at first. How did you go about building your reputation and your professional credibility in a new place?
Yeah, so obviously we are all here, so we, to some extent, we didn't like it where we were, right? There could be different reasons for that. I liked Sarajevo really, but I got this opportunity that I jumped on. I had a good job here. I was leading the marketing department already. I bought a flat. I had a life really. I had a dog also, which is still alive. And we spoke about it. But there is something that defines us. We are social animals, you know, and there's this thing that we are always determined by our surrounding. So we are always influenced by our surrounding. And that can be in a great way, obviously. We are all proud of our roots, me too. I like to go back home, but there is this narrative that will always be present wherever you come from. When you change that scenery, and I first changed it for the neighboring city, that is really like 20 kilometers away. The problem with that then you are this guy from this other city, this neighboring city. So there are some like these local rivalries, animosities, however you want to call it. Then when I moved to Sarajevo, I was one guy from one part of Bosnia. Whoever is here from Bosnia knows it. I was from Krajina. We talk funny, like Tyrolean guys here, you know. We talk. And you know, they look at us like, yeah, these guys, you know, from this part of the Bosnia, whatever. And then when I came to Vienna, I was suddenly somebody from ex-Yugoslavia, you know. And when I went, I didn't work there, but then when I went abroad, I had to explain that I'm from Europe sometimes, which is also very nice, very refreshing. So this restart, ability to reinvent yourself is this buzzword, really. But there is something, some of the package that you take off when you change. And you all know that when you change the scenery, when you move somewhere else, and all of a sudden it becomes about your meritocracy, what you really know to do and not who you know. this who you know will always play a role, because if somebody didn't spotted me in Sarajevo, I wouldn't be in Vienna. And we will talk about that, but like recommendations and relationship is very important, obviously. But like the moment it becomes more about your meritocracy is when you feel better about defining yourself, because you don't have to, explain to nobody where you come from, and nobody cares actually, which is great, really. So that was that, and
yeah. No, I think this is actually a great lead-in into the next question. So not having those connections in the new place, it does, like you said, I think really push you to think about the skills that you have and to focus on the work that you're doing. But sometimes it's difficult to get others to see those skills that you're bringing. There's a lot of rejection, I think, that we all go through when we move to a new place and begin our careers again. And that's something I'd like to talk with all three of you about, actually. What are some ways that you've stopped yourself from spiraling after receiving a lot of rejections? And how did you learn maybe from difficult feedback? Or even how did you ask for that feedback? Because that's something a lot of us struggle with, I think. Does one of you want to start?
Yeah.
Simona.
Okay. By the way, I want to build on your point just really quickly. We hear lots of bad advice sometimes online that, especially if you work in the corporate sector, it's always about who you know. I don't think so. I think for me especially, and maybe this is a very personal story, I've always tried to be very resourceful at work. I tried to do my job exceptionally well and to work well with others and to complete it at a very high ability and high standard. I'm a little bit too much of a high standard, and I think that has helped me a lot, because when you build trust in companies and you are knowledgeable and good at what you do, that builds trust, and that also
Absolutely.
Gets you places, because at the end of the day, when you join the company, they're like, wow, she was great at doing X, Y, Z. So, and if you're playing political games and you're kind of incompetent at what you do, I really have seen that doesn't always get you far, right, in a corporate context. But moving back to failures, I've faced a lot of failure, like everybody else. So actually, when I was living in Switzerland, I worked for a VC firm, and they gave me the feedback that I was too academic, that I wasn't entrepreneurial enough. And when I worked at the UN, actually, somebody told me, oh, you're too family orientated, you can't work here. As if working at the UN and being family orientated are two kind of incompatible things. And somebody even told me once, your features are too striking. You don't look like you could be a leader or that you could work here. And so one general piece of advice that I have for you is that when you know yourself, right, you should be able to distinguish bad, negative, toxic feedback from constructive feedback. Now, the feedback that I got at Switzerland was, I would actually say, it was accurate at the time. And just to give you some context, I had graduated from my master's in Austria, and I fell in love, and I moved to Switzerland. And I did something whimsical. I thought, okay, let's give this relationship a shot. And I yet again moved to another country, and I had to get another visa and go through that process where there was no ChatGPT, send out like 75 applications and actually get a response. And I managed to succeed, and I got that job. But unlucky for me, the relationship didn't go as planned. And this very much impacted my well-being, my sense of clarity, my sense of focus, my sense of fearlessly being who I am. And naturally, that impacted my performance at work. So lesson number one, do not ever move for a man or for a woman, right? Unless, being where you are contributes to your professional goals, right? Or you have a backup plan. So I took that advice and what they told me, that I'm too academic, and I tried to transform it into a strength. Mm-hmm. And actually now, if I tell you, being academic is actually my core skill set, I would say, at my company.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I I basically build a competitive analysis, and I build it for our executives at our company. I use my research skills, I interview customers, and I've built that into a skill set. With regards to not being entrepreneurial, we can't all start companies, but you can certainly exercise that skill. And whilst I was on maternity leave, I decided to build my own kind of social initiative. So there you go. Life is sometimes struggles. It's a series of struggles. But what I would say is, actually for me, the older I got, the more self-confident I became. And right now, to the point where I really truly think, I really know myself. You can't sway me. You can give me constructive feedback, and I'll certainly take it on board, but not to the point where I would let it eat me inside out, right? And you have to stay firm with that, because we'll hear lots of people saying negative things, naysayers in life, right? It's really important to filter that out and focus on yourself and what you're really exceptionally good at.
Thank you. That's a really important message for all of us, I think.
Yeah.
And let's hear from some of the other panelists. What are some strategies that you found, maybe Mo, for dealing with rejection?
Rejection. You have to cry a lot, alone in your room. I can answer that, yeah. So rejection, rejection. What's rejection? Somebody doesn't like you. In the business context, like you can be rejected and given a feedback, and you can take it to your heart or not. But people from Balkan can be very, testosterone driven, not very prone to getting a feedback. And sometimes feedback is not sincere also. And I agree with you, you should know yourself and really admit when you, fuck, that was too much of that. So it was like, okay, when we talk about intercultural differences, there's this stereotype. Somebody says stereotypes are not wrong, they are just not finished. So we tend to do better with improvisation. Austrians tend to do better with order. Obviously, our country is also proven that. Look where Bosnia is, where Austria is at the moment. And there is a good measure of something that you are culturally prone to do good in a context that allows for that. So where there are projects where you should pick yourself up, nobody will give you that task that interconnects departments. And I had that a lot in smaller companies, bigger companies also. You can imagine that Oracle, 140,000 employees, still have a matrix way of doing things. And it really depends sometimes on who you know, how good you are with somebody who sits on a different part of the world. It's like it's not very comforting thing to know that company will not take care of you. You will take care of yourself, which is really like Americans do that really good. So I enjoy that process. So even big companies can have projects or matrix way of working where you're kind of Balkan way of being flexible, things like that. By the way, one story, like people always ask me about the war. You were in the war, blah, blah, blah. I was for 4 years in the war in Bosnia. I didn't fight because I was too young. But the biggest lesson I learned is not that we are resilient. We are very fucking flexible. Sorry. But we are super flexible. We want to survive. So 4 years of war was like, okay, after 1 year, okay, this will last, obviously. And then you were there, and then that was a new reality. The same as when I was in Vienna, after 1 year of Vienna, new reality was that I got very pissed and granting on good old Viennese way if the tram is late to me. So it's not like I always said, no, but you were in the war. Like, yeah, you were, that built me to some point, but like, we are very adaptable, flexible animals to good and bad things also. Now rejection, when it comes, because we talk about rejection on being rejected when you apply for a job, right? I mean, play field is different for us a bit here, especially if you didn't master the language and it's German.
Yes, the dreaded German, yes.
German. Someone said there's this comedian, like German sounds like when you throw two typewriting machines down the stairs. Whatever comes about. At the same time, it's the language that Nietzsche wrote on, Goethe and Thomas Mann, like
beautiful language, very fucking hard. Especially if you already know how to speak English well. That will be not your advantage if you want to learn German, obviously. So at one point I bought a flat here and I got fired. So I didn't have a job, I have a loan. And on top of that, I saw a better flat and I was trying to sell this one in a good Balkan way and buy this other one because it was 20 square meters more and the same price. So it's pretty tricky, you know. When you are like Balkan guy with very unpopular name in last 40 years, let's face it, like I got randomly picked up on my average transatlantic flight 3 or 4 times, like very randomly. But you know, I got used to that. Like that's the zeitgeist. You have to live with that. That's the name you were born with. It defines you. It's okay. I understand it. I understand the macro game of it. Do I like it? No, but it is what it is. So with all of those things, then you have to apply for a job and you get rejected a lot. Why? I mean, first thing, don't think it's because of you. It can be very contextual. I mean, the first thing that you shouldn't think is like somebody is better than me. That somebody else has maybe vitamin B, C, however they call it here, you know. Beziehung, relationship. They also might know somebody who just can recommend it to the extent that this is a living person. Because LinkedIn is like Tinder, obviously, you know. Companies are offering jobs when they are described Supermans and then...
I mean, Mo, if I can jump in here, actually, because this is bringing us to the next topic almost, which is that, one of the ways to deal with rejection or difficult times when you're restarting in a new place is community and network. This is something that each of you mentioned in our discussion.
Rejection, may I say, that's very important. The only advice there, sorry if I went
all right, if you keep it short, absolutely.
Yeah, super short, like, it has to work only once. So that's the problem, because I was also in sales, like, why everybody likes sales, likes the commission, but doesn't like the emotional labor of it? Because you get rejected a lot, but it has to work only once.
Yeah.
So
I think that's...
You need one job, you know?
Yeah, just needed to work once, absolutely. If we talk about, let's go back to this topic of social connections, making meaningful connections here. It can be very difficult for all of us to meet new people, especially in Vienna, I would say. We heard from some others that it's not the most welcoming city for foreigners. What are some strategies that you found to make some of those meaningful connections here? Georgia, we can start with you.
Yeah, sure. Well, if I can briefly just go back to the vitamin B kind of thing and rejection, not everyone has to like us. It's okay that, so once you accept that, then it's less emotional investment when applying. And I think that sort of makes the process faster. When it comes to finding a community, I think this is something that you build slowly on. And having done that several times, I can see now in retrospect that it's a natural process. And to normalize that, you sort of let yourself in a vulnerable position. And if you start by that it is vulnerable in the beginning when you're building that community. I sort of had some people I knew from the first time over in Vienna that I reconnected with. I also had a wider family of my partner, although this is not the way you want to do it, because you want to build your own.
How did you do that? Yeah.
So I didn't want to go through that channel. I did find the Vienna family network that Miguel mentioned, because I was a mother with a 1-year-old, and obviously that's a very vulnerable phase because you are full-time invested in a little human you have to support in growing, and it's very lonely because it's you don't have that network when you move like that. So the Vienna family network was sort of reproducing the community I had back in London, which is a very different thing. That's we talked earlier about expectations. Motherhood was for me happened in London in a context that I assumed is the norm in the rest of Europe other than the country I grew up in, that's Greece. So for me London was sort of a dream in terms of community, like everyone jumping in to help, having these little hubs with meeting other mothers in like, I don't know, 5-minute distance all around you. And I assumed that's what it would be here. It wasn't. So it was a bit hard in the beginning. And Vienna Family Network is an international network of new parents that are not from Austria, an English-speaking one. So that helped partly. That being said, it's not on the neighborhood level that I was used to. So because it's from all over Vienna and you meet in different locations, and when you have a little baby, it's good to have really like close. So I did try different things, and it's happened really gradually. It didn't happen all at once. And that's what I mentioned before. It was hard because I wasn't yet looking for a career back into, it was a transitional period. And I was unlucky that then the pandemic happened, so it was kind of, even more isolating. But I have to say, accepting that this is the phase you're in, you can't change some factors like the pandemic. So you have to adapt to whatever life throws at you. And I think with time I have learned that it's okay to have really bad moments. It's okay to be really on a very low phase, and it's okay to ask for help. So that's important.
That's
also
so
to
important.
normalize mental health care. Not only I had postnatal depression, and I hadn't realized how bad it was until we moved. But it doesn't have to be motherhood. It can also be any other context that you need. Whether this is help of, I don't know what the system can offer, there's plenty, or, building a network from groups that you have common interests, like whatever that might be, from pottery to hiking to anything, just something that connects you.
I want to jump in here because, Simona, one thing that you said during our discussion that I really loved was, you have to treat meeting new people like exercise, almost. Could you expand a little bit on what you meant by that?
Yeah. When you move to a new country, it's very easy to lock yourself up and feel isolated. And you have to take an initiative, I would say, regularly to put yourself out there and talk to people. And we all know this, and we've spoken about that. And I would actually kind of say it's not that difficult to build a community, to find people here. Let's put it that way. My practical advice to anyone is, what are you interested in? What do you want to improve? And try and find communities. I mean, I have multiple, I would say, micro communities here in Austria. Toastmasters International is a public speaking club. If you want to improve your public speaking, check them out. They have competitions on a local, on a national level. Wonderful way to connect with people, right? If you like soul and funk and you want to perform on stage, there's so many different opportunities to do that, right? The Vienna Family Network, the Female Factor, it's a networking club for women who want to develop themselves professionally. Miglena is also part of that. So I think really, actually just everybody just talk to Miglena. She'll tell you all the different ways you can get involved. But what I would say is that it is easy to isolate yourself, and you really have to make an effort, especially if you are younger and you're moving to a new country, to really engage and ask people, be curious, pose questions, ask smart questions, seek and you shall find. Any opportunity that I have personally gotten here in Austria has been because I attended an event, I got up to the person that was presenting, and I just had a chat with them. That's how I got the internship, landed at the United Nations, right? Or there's just really wonderful things that can happen if you just open up and talk to people. So that's my practical
That's
advice.
great advice.
Yeah,
to really push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. So we're reaching the end of the discussion portion. Before we move over to a Q&A.
Just keep the microphone closer.
How about, is this good? Yeah, okay. So before we move on to the Q&A section with the audience, I'd love it if we could all share some final words of wisdom maybe for the group here. Mo, I'd like to start with you. If you could give yourself advice let's think about you in your first 6 months here. What is one thing you would tell yourself?
6 months.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
I should have chosen a better bezirkel. I was Favoriten, and then people from the company tend to say, "What? But there are all black people there. They're like, brown." I'm like, yeah, I'm Muhamed. I feel very good there. Don't worry. Some people. Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, if I could give my younger self advice, that's maybe more relevant.
Sure.
It would be, I got out of the war and then immediately started to study and all of that stuff. And everything was a bit cramped, Like, simply when you are like that post-war generation, it looks like you had to define your path very standard way, how, not your parents and not your community, but like how it's supposed to be. If I would know that like life is short, but it's also long, if you are lucky enough, I would wasted my 20s, in terms of I would try to pursue my dream with music maybe more. I would do that stuff. So if you are 20, you have a lot of time, I guess. Don't be a slave to a man.
I think, we can definitely. I think we can all agree that's not something we want for ourselves. Yeah. But I think that's good advice for newcomers here as well, maybe, is, don't get too caught up in the way that you think things should be or the steps you think you should be taking, and leave some room for playing around and for trying new things, for experimenting. Your passions can still grow and develop here, even if you're in a new place. So you can bring some of that 20-year-old spirit to your move here. Simona, you've reinvented yourself successfully multiple times, as we already talked about today. What is one concrete action that someone could take next week, starting Monday, if they're feeling stuck maybe in their career and they want to bring some more momentum in? Wow, an easy question for you.
Read a book called Lessons on Leadership by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. It's not a New York Times bestseller, but it's an incredible book that gives you a lot of wisdom and direction for life. I think it's really important to question your meaning and your purpose in life. It's a very difficult thing to do. Read that book. Number 2, download Notebook LM. It's incredible. If you want to increase your expertise in a given topic, you can ask it to create a podcast for you, and it's quite fascinating. And then number 3, lifelong learning. I really think find out what it is that you really enjoy doing, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid in, the ikigai, right? And really pursue that, try to unpack it. There's so much wisdom and knowledge online. We're in the information technology age, right? Everything's available. So increase your skill set and your knowledge in that area. So those are my three tips for you.
Thank you. And finally, Georgia, maybe for someone in the audience who's in that difficult adjustment phase right now, maybe they're struggling or they're feeling isolated, maybe they're doubting themselves, what is one thing you would want them to hear today?
Okay, everyone. Well, the truth is that you're bringing something on the table that nobody else has. It's unique. And whichever phase you are, you might not see it, feeling down. Eventually, it will work out. Someone will like you for who you are. So that's connecting also with rejection. So trust your guts in that, and I would say preserve your energy. So, without any emotional investment, just send CVs like with kilograms or whatever, without thinking too much about it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And so basically having this perseverance in kind of, you also don't like everyone. So it's not a kind of, and I have to say from experience, because I worked also in administration in universities, and I have seen that a lot of times it's completely random factors that get you a job or not. Chance, not, yes, vitamin B2. And I have to say, I've had several jobs in my life, some of them because I knew someone who told me about the job, sometimes completely out of the blue, where I even didn't expect to be invited in an interview. And I also had an experience where I had a vitamin B who told me about a job. And this person was in a panel, and I was very, very hopeful. And then they told me why I wasn't hired, and it was a reason that was completely random. That's I've seen it from the administration, I've seen it personally, so you cannot take things personally. It's not because someone was better, but just something fits, also something in your profile might fit, it's not in the job description because I can't put that there. But if someone likes you because you have this particular background, just put it out there, put yourself out there, and basically, it's too I don't know, cheeky, but you have to love yourself. You have to, embrace who you are. Nobody else is like that, and you'll find this even in the darkest hours, I would say.
Thank you, Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay, and Alion, do we have time for some Q&A?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. So I will open it up to the audience. Is there anyone that has a question maybe for one of our panelists? Yes.
Basically to all of you, so and you're moving abroad to another country.
Can you please introduce yourself?
Yes.
Allison, can you please repeat the question?
Yes, I'll repeat the question.
My name is Victoria. I'm living in Austria almost 10 years, so I can say I'm already adapted to the way of living in Austria. But when I moved to country, one of my first culture shocks was that on Sunday I came to the supermarket and it was closed. And it was really, it took me a while to adjust my habits to start shopping on Friday afternoons or Saturday mornings. Because on Saturday you have to be also careful with that. So that was my culture shock. What was yours?
Okay, so the question from Victoria is, what was the culture shock experience that you had when you moved to Vienna? Georgia, you're nodding, so you have something.
Even though I have lived here, living for 11 years in London and having, let's say, the best parts of my life there, when I came back, I was shocked about the same thing, about the weekend. And I was like, because in London nothing ever stops. And if you want to work on Sunday, you can. And if you want to go shopping in the supermarket at midnight. So I had this feeling like that everyone is so lazy here, because I was thinking in terms of London being a, pulsating city. So now, 5 years or 6 years on, 19, I actually come to cherish that, where we can breathe, and if you slowly adapt to the local style, way of life, it takes time, but then you come to realize that, oh my God, I need this rest. I'm not lazy. I was in a different, frame of mind, and it took me some time to come to that. So I completely relate.
I have one on that. I think Gustav Mahler, someone said, like, if there would be an Armageddon, I would like to be in Vienna because there things happen 50 years later. Guys, I think I'm pretty optimistic, very laid back guy. I like that way exactly. I like that. I'm not like, I will change it. No, that's perfect. Vienna suits me perfectly. What was really a shock, not shock, but like something that still persists in my work here, because I'm simply, obviously, a bit that kind of person. You already, caught my presenting and also talking style. I like to get involved in arguments. Constructive arguments, really. I mean, if I have something to say. If I don't, I will shut up, really. Because there are many things I don't know nothing about. My Austrian friend told me, and that's really good, like Austrians, and again, it's a stereotype, please don't get me wrong, but like, as a rule of the thumb, he said like, Austrians should make conflict avoidance national sport. Now we also come to the point of what conflict means, because on Balkan, what challenging and healthy debate means, here might already be in the red zone of conflict.
Yes.
If you're ever in Serbian office somewhere, those people are very loud, louder than Bosnians. Sometimes they work in a way that you think that they are constantly, fighting. And those kind of straits, like, it's always matter of context and good measure. It really both helps, and you shouldn't get into fights if it simply doesn't help nobody. It's just that emotional labor and this residue that is not needed on a professional stage. But on the other side, if some projects are obviously lagging, and you look like you are the only one who sees the elephant in the room, sometimes you should let this elephant live there. Pick your battles. Sometimes you should speak.
Yeah.
That's very hard to define which of those two to. I'm still learning.
So that's a great example. Different argument culture or debating culture. Simona, what about for you?
Yeah, many things, but one I would say is the level of bureaucracy here and the lack of digitalization in general. Coming from Australia, where everything's like specified online and it's crystal clear, you don't need to go to the institution. It's just unbelievable. I actually had my red, white, red visa rejected, and I had to go through an NGO to fight for it. 8 months later, I finally got my visa. To all the Europeans here, you're very lucky you don't have to go through that process. It's very challenging. And so that's one thing that was a bit of a shocker, I'd have to say.
Yeah, a huge shock for me as well, this red, white, red card process. Okay, how are we on time? All right, we have time for one more question. Yes, all the way in the back. You, sir.
Thank you so much. It's really cool panel, and I'm the person who is Vienna is my sixth city, and Austria is my sixth country. So there are the inner talks always inside that I'm not good enough, and the rejections. How do you reframe your inner talks? What do you tell yourself to continue pushing?
Okay, so to rephrase or to recap that question, how do you deal with negative self-talk, those inner voices that are maybe telling you you're not good enough? How do you reframe those?
I would just say, again, one very true sentence, but hard to hard to digest and really to internalize. It has to work only once. It's like, it's binary. Either you have a job or you don't. When you don't have it, your inner voices are very loud. But like, next application that you send can change that. And you all of a sudden have a job from day one to day two. And it's terrible that all of a sudden you are more self-assured. You think that you are a different person, and you are the same person like yesterday. So some kind of inner composure, like, I know who I am, I know what I know what I don't know. So I got rejected 100 times, and it has to work once. And maybe it will work next time.
Yeah. Just to build on that, that's we don't live in a social vacuum, so other people's words do impact us. But what's very important is that you have that core, and I would say your family network as well, or your friends network, and don't let the negative opinions become internal, right? So again, you have to, if you fail, you got to get up, try again, and so focus on the good things. What are you good at? Like, look at your life. What have you accomplished? What are you really proud of? You have to remind yourself of those things if you face a really difficult moment. But I do think
to myself I was in the war.
Okay, well, there you go. Yeah.
Especially when I rushed first to the buffet table. I was in the war.
Okay. Yeah.
So for me, what I would always do that helped because you're not always that resilient psychologically. If something makes you happy, like lifts you, whether this is playing some music, walking in nature, do that, and then you see things differently. It just brings you a little bit further up. And of course, taking feedback from people that you would take advice. Not anyone gives constructive feedback, so it's a lot of that. I always ask for feedback, and I did tell you the story where someone, I was sending an email. That was a long time ago, and they were not supposed to give me feedback, so they were answering to a colleague. Because I asked why, what would I do better next time? And they wrote to their colleague and accidentally copied me, and you imagine that. And they said, oh my God, the sense of entitlement. What? That made me realize that okay, take it all with a pinch of salt. So, sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's like, I would never talk to this person anyway, so, well.
That is great advice, yes, thank you. Okay, I think, yes, I can see the clock now. So we're going to wrap up today's panel. Huge thank you to all three of you for being so open and vulnerable with us today and sharing some of the really valuable insights from your own journeys. You've all been in Vienna for over 10 years now. So I think we learned a lot from you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.